Blog 193 Audiobook, East Sussex Coastal Travel Blog by Keith H. Webb Designs, the 26th of April to May the 4th be with you 2023. Overview. We had a lovely 8 days away on the East Sussex coast, and apart from the second day's very wet weather for about half of the day, we had wonderful warm days with mostly clear blue skies. Sometimes May in the UK is a joy to behold. Keith even got a bit of a tan whilst sitting out chatting to the oldies at Tanner Farm Park on the second to last day. So, to summarise this travel blog, we set off on the Wednesday and travelled down to Brighton. You cannot get into caravan and motorhome club sites these days before 1 p.m, so we called in firstly at Handcross, where Annie did her teaching practice all those years ago for a week at the primary school. She lived in Diggs up the road when at Brighton Teachers Training College. Her view was in 50-ish years it had changed a lot. Smile. After that we travelled to Shoreham by Sea to the west of Brighton. Parked up and went for a very blustery walk along the boardwalk on the seafront past what looked like an excerpt from Grand Designs. One even had an outside pool. After that we drove all the way along the seafront through the grotty Portslade to the magnificent regal splendour of Hove, then Brighton's seafront past Roedian where Annie worked all those years ago, up through Kemptown, Doodah, to the campsite in East Park at Whitehawk. We set up and had French pâtisseries from Chef Philippe, famous, who bakes on the site. Yummy. The next 2 days we had great fun with our dear pals Pete and Joy, who arrived on the Thursday. Much catching up, eating, drinking, and making merry. We used our old people's bus passes to get into town on the Sunday from Whitehawk Bus Garage and had such fun revisiting the lanes. No old vinyl shops for Keith these days, it has gone very upmarket. You can see our fun via the slideshows etc under the Brighton heading. After saying our fond goodbyes we set off for Fairlight or Petwood's campsite, another caravan and motorhome club site, M&CC site. We travelled through New Haven, stopped at the harbour, Eastbourne, which was lovely, and even found Keith's old paddling pool from trips with Mum and Nan back 60+ years during summer holidays, despite the pier guides at Eastbourne suggesting it must be in Treasure Island. Yuck. It was in the Prince's Park but now used as a boating lake. It's even got the old metal railed bridge I remember so fondly. My little grey cells must still be working, which is a relief. Smile. Fairlight is quite a nice site, full because we pensioners had forgotten it was a bank holiday weekend. We naively thought that was only going to be the coronation weekend. Word of warning: the single track and waterlogged road is not an easy approach. Indeed, we did it from the wrong end second time when coming back from Winchelsea. Not a good idea. My guess is that would be impossible if you were towing a caravan. Still, the short side from Pet Village isn't too bad as long as no one is coming in the opposite direction. Hinsong tips: whilst going through to the site we went along the seafront at Hastings, very Regency but impossible to park up at. Note: most of these coastal towns need you to download the parking app to pay, and guess what, the apps are all different depending upon which town you want to park in. Reminds me of the old Betamax versus VHS era. Come on councils, get it sorted please. From Fairlight Woods campsite we bid a circular tour along the coast. To see more please click here. Revisited the old Pontins site at Camber Sands we as a family stayed at years ago. I mean when I was a kid. It wasn't great then, it's far worse now. Haha. Loved Winchelsea and Rye, although Mermaid Street in Rye is getting a little steep for both of us, especially downhill. Rye is fab. Must look up Henry James, a resident. The only book I remember is Portrait of a Lady. After Fairlight Woods site we travelled on to Battle and took up where Harold and Guillaume left off. Great fun. What concerns us is no remains have ever been found on the site, so seems unlikely it really was the battle site, but who am I to ruin a good story? Loved the fact that the abbey was built allegedly where Harold was smote. Haha. After Battle where we joined English Heritage, a great bank holiday deal. We went to the best campsite of the holiday at Normanscourt Manor. Palatial and pitch 110 had such great views. We then did a day out circular trip on our second day at the Battle campsite, shopping in our famed Asda at Pevensey Bay, scones, Tiptree raspberry seedless and clotted arteries for the second time. Oh dear, bad habits die hard, literally, before Hermanso observatories, quite weird and old now. Pevensey Castle, both Roman and Norman, it was invaded by French school kids whilst we were there, again restarting the 100-year way. Smile. Then on to Norman's Bay, the Conqueror William I guess. Rather than wisdom. Funny man not. Before Crowhurst, a lovely village, where my nan's second husband Harry lived, and back to the Battle campsite, another great day of adventure. Our final site was at Tanner's Farm Park over the border from East Sussex just into Kent. We did an early morning stop in the lovely historic village of Robertsbridge. Give it some time if you are that way, you will not be disappointed. We visited Bayham Old Abbey en route and the village of Goudhurst, with its coronation celebration bunting everywhere and such a lovely peaceful pond full of fish and a floating miniature wooden dovecote bathed in sunlight, and the tranquility enjoyed by both of us from the comfort of the strategically placed town bench. The village hall sign said it was all medieval. Wow. We liked it anyhow, then went on to the campsite. Apple trees blossom everywhere. We had arrived in the Garden of England. The last day on the way home we stopped at Charles Darwin's home in Down, Kent near Orpington. Wow, and was I jealous of his garden. Forget the origin of species, that greenhouse was to die for. Haha. The journey back after that was full stop start, folks leaving early maybe for the coronation weekend, who knows. Feel free to read more under each travel blog subject heading. Thanks, Keith H. Web Designs. The origin of fun, or is it species? We loved visiting Charles Darwin's house and were drawn back again to his learnings on the Beagle, the first of Dear Pal KJ's short stories in his 7 Ships series, available on Amazon, or in all good bookshops. Other products are available. Fun. Brighton 3 days 26-28th April 2023. Great fun, love Brighton, such a classy city. Remember Chef Philippe, pals, travelers with nicked bin and nappies outside Picho, and that camping portable washing machine a real first. Too much port, great food and conversation, the lanes, jewelry, clocks, old weapons, no vinyl stores, boo, Regency architecture, the new BA Tower, West Pier, cold, wind and rain, plus sunshiner sitting out on the table and chairs at the site for the first time this year. White Hawk bus garage and noisy crowd as they watched their team get promoted. Take a look at the slideshows, it will give you a far better picture than my words. New Haven, Eastbourne, Hastings, Bexhill-on-Sea, Cobden Beach, Farlight Woods campsite, the 29th of April 2023. Really like this coast and especially enjoyed our walk along the front at Eastbourne. What a nice place. Had a walk on the pier to the very end, hugely sunny, great views back. Very Victorian. Oh, and those ice creams at the gelato shop on the way back to the van. We also visited the food and craft stores on the promenade, buying a Moroccan mesa dish set in the process. Bexhill was posh, Cobden Beach the usual pebble beach all the way along this coast. Hastings looked nice but far too busy, and after Eastbourne, which we think we preferred, we didn't have the energy, and that decision was made for us, as all the way along the miles of seafront there was nowhere, literally nowhere to park, so we went on to the site, quite late in the afternoon. The wardens were friends of Lawrence and Yvonne, our pals, and said we were the last but one to arrive, filled with water and set up camp. Nice bluebells and wood anemones in the rather damp and soggy woods on the site. Very busy with kids as bank holiday weekend, which in fairness we didn't know about. Look at the slideshows, it will give you a far better picture than my words. Pet Levels, Rye, Camber Sands, LYDD, Winchelsea, the 30th of April 2023. Decided we wanted to take the van out for the day, much to see and clearly not an area we had been to for many a year. Started at Pet Levels with a walk on the Pebble Beach and learned about the wreck of the of this area. Appropriately named, we thought. Then it was to Rye, a great town we have been to before but at least 10 years ago. Climbed up to the high street along the cobbled streets, learnt about Henry James, snacked everything that moved. The place is, how do we say in Old English, quaint. Used the lookout, visited the shops, saw the castle, and then braved going down Mermaid Street. Not a great choice, it was fine 10 years ago, not so now with my knees. #tee nice ice cream at the end though, well it is summer, just. After Rye we went to Camber Sands, which is not great, and LYDD plus airport, likewise, not great, and as for the potholes and road quality in East Sussex, don't get me started. Winchelsea however was lovely. The site of Spike Milligan's gravestone, in Gaelic, I told you I was ill, haha. Then it was back to the campsite. Take a look at the slideshows, it will give you a far better picture than my words. Guillaume the Bastard, Battle, 1066 and Norman Scout Manor campsite, the 1st of May 2023. We left the Petwoods campsite having done ablutions and filled up with water. Yep, You really needed that detail, didn't you? Remember well buying our English Heritage Oldies yearly membership, even we couldn't resist that deal. We did 4 sites on this travel trip, so we are quids in, and you don't have to pay for car parks, and we can take up to 4 grandchildren with us for free, if only they might be interested. Unlikely, I know. So, Battle Abbey and site great coffee and cakes to start the day. Loads of history. Spent hours there, very educational. It was David Starkey's voice as an overview on the audio units, I think. Then walked up the hill to St. Mary's Church to find graves of Annie's relatives Sir Anthony Brown and Alice Gage. The choir master was rehearsing. Loads of pics today. The 1066 country trail is interesting. Then on to the campsite. Nice wardens, very helpful. They were painting chickens, coronation chickens. Oh dear, bad joke time, but it came from their lips, not mine. Norman Scout Manor is a great campsite. Recommendation: take a look at the slideshows, it will give you a far better picture than my words. Pevensey Castle, Crowhurst, Battle, 1066 and Norman Scout Manor campsite, the 2nd of May, 2023. We had a day out in the van. Went to our usual Asda in Pevensey Bay first, where we bought our usual fruit scones and clotted arteries to go with our Tiptree raspberry seedless jam. Hey, if you can't have a cream tea or two when you are on holidays, when can you? After that we went on to Pevensey Castle, which was both Norman and Roman. A hugely interesting castle, and once we had been through most of their audio headsets and finally got two that worked, we were off to explore. The Pevensey gun and tread bucket cannonballs, recovered from the moat, what a messy and heavy job that must have been, were a must, as were the various exhibitions around the site, so worth a visit. The car park this time was privately owned, so had to pay. We got slightly blocked in by a coach from Czechoslovakia, but my two-wheel maneuver soon sorted that out. Not. After Pevensey we visited Norman's Bay, not a great area, all private roads, but there is a camping and caravan club site there, although you would have to climb uphill to see the sea. We then went on to Crowhurst, a very nice village, and from there back to the fab Norman Scout Manor campsite near Battle. Look at the slideshows, it will give you a far better picture than my words. Robertsbridge, Bayermold Abbey, Gudhurst and Tanner's Farm Park campsite, the 3rd of May, 2023. We left the campsite about 9ish, having, what the expression, broken camp. En route we stopped at the fabulous village of Robertsbridge. It was very sunny, so we had a good walk both ways through the town, many thatched and half-timbered old buildings, a lot of history here. After taking a picture of the town sign, so love those about English villages, we got an Eccles cake and chocolate brownie from the bakers and ate them in the van. Quiz time: is a chocolate brownie more likely to be eaten by male or female? Answers have already been digested. Haha. After Robertsbridge we went to Bayermold Abbey, a 12th century monastery now somewhat dilapidated but hugely interesting. The same stonemasons had worked on this as those for Westminster Abbey, and it showed in the craftsmanship. We spent quite a while here before going on to Gudhurst, another fine English village. As the weather was so nice, we decided to head on to the campsite. Very friendly lady warden, we did the grandparent chat and set up table and chairs to relax in the sun. We had a long chat with the old couple from Maidstone next to us, mostly about genealogy and football teams. A great day on the farm. The site facilities are a little tired but perfectly adequate and half the price of the Brighton site. So, with the sunshine, a true win. Charles Darwin's Down House and Origin of Species, the 4th of May, 2023, and back home. Had breakfast, drained, and emptied everything and set off for the village of Down near Orpington. Took ages to find Charles Darwin's house, as no English heritage signs anywhere from the direction we arrived in. Even a lady villager had no idea where it was. Eventually found a workman who knew exactly where it was, thank heavens. A truly wonderful experience, so worth a visit. Spent quite a few hours here: beagle journey, origin of species, garden, weird experiments. How nice to be rich enough to enable your passions. It took him 20 years to publish because of the damnation he felt he would, and did encounter, from the religious word, but hey, it makes a whole lot of sense to a mere mortal like me. We had a lovely lunch in the cafe there: tuna mayo jackets and Mrs. Emma Darwin cake for me and yogurt raspberry cake for Annie, yum yum. Post this visit the long, and I mean long, journey back, Stop-start for over 100 miles. So boring. Anyhow, it was a fab 8 days.